This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Who else can it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome. You are in the lab room. I, of course, am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Mid-season outlook as we're going through the entire National Football League, team by team, division by division. We're knocking them down one by one. And what we aim to do with this series is simply bring you up to speed on where teams have started, where they are now, and where they could potentially be going in the 2014 season as we are at the midpoint. We're talking AFC South football, and this is a division dominated by one team and one team alone, the Indianapolis Colts, which is where we start our journey in this division. The Colts they're living the life. They're living the good life right now, and the reason why is because the hard part of their schedule is done. I mean, you look at their first 9 games, and in those first 9 games, they've already played Denver, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so everything left on the schedule, with the exception of the Patriots coming up after their bye week in week number 11, it's going to be pretty much winnable games down the stretch. So this Colts team, they've taken care of business, and they've gotten the hard part of the schedule out of the way, and they're 6-3, even though they've had to play some tough games. So you feel good about that. Andrew Luck is on a tear, man. I mean, you feel like, man, how lucky are we to go from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck? And this guy is just carving up the league right now. 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. The only quarterback in the league right now with over 3,000 yards passing. I mean, the kid is lights out right now. And they're just getting it done, are these Indianapolis Colts. And then it doesn't hurt when you play in arguably the worst division in all of football. So just another feather in the cap of the Indianapolis Colts as they look to... I think you're at the point now where you're not even really worried about locking this division up. The Texans, they're making a move at the quarterback position. They know where their season is going. You've got this thing on cruise control. Now you should be looking for seeding. If you're the Indianapolis Colts, the time is now. Make a power move and try to get to 11, 12, wins on the season and see if you can't get home field advantage throughout the first 2 rounds of the postseason. Hey, that should be your goal at this point because the division is basically sewn up. You look at the biggest concern for me with this Colts team moving forward is, can the defense do enough? I mean, we know what this offense is. T.Y. Hilton almost had 1,000 yards receiving already. They're electric offensively with Andrew Luck and the tight ends. Dwayne Allen is an emerging star in this league. They're getting it done offensively. Can the defense do enough? We saw that meltdown in Pittsburgh. You can't have many more games like that if you're going to get it done. And I know that your best cornerback was out in that ball game dealing with some injury issues, but it does not matter. You can't give up 51 points. You can't give up 6 touchdowns. You can't give up over 500 yards passing and over 600 yards total in the football game offensively. And so can this defense do enough? Can they get enough pressure on the quarterback? Can they generate enough turnovers? Can this defense do enough to do what they need to do for this offense to flourish and win football games? We will see. Body of work for the Colts. 3-1 at home, 3-2 on the road, 3-0 in the division, 5-2 in the conference. All excellent marks for a team heading in the right direction. You look at the final slate for this team. You got a bye week in week 10. You come off the bye, you're at home versus the New England Patriots. You're home for Jacksonville afterwards. You're home for Washington after that. Then you're at Cleveland, home for Houston, at Dallas, at Tennessee to finish up the season. So really doable slate. Again, the tough part of this season for the Indianapolis Colts is over. If you're the Indianapolis Colts, now it's time to take care of business and try to get as high as possible a seed in this conference coming out of the AFC South division. And so we move on from the best team in this division to the second place team, the Houston Texans. This is exactly what I was afraid of with the Houston Texans. I talked about this all offseason when I did my draft wrap-up series, when I did my lab reports. I said the same thing. It was almost like a broken record. I was echoing the same sentiments over and over again. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Best defensive player in football on your football team. Arian Foster returns to dominance, which I thought could happen. I wasn't sure if it was, but it has. And then plus 7 in the turnover differential, still you're 1 game under 500. And why is that? Because the quarterback position isn't good enough. Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't been that bad. In fact, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That's taking care of the ball for him with his standards. I mean, this is a guy that will turn the football over. Hasn't turned it over as much, but Ryan Fitzpatrick doesn't make that many plays either. And here's the issue with him. He doesn't make a lot of plays. He's going to turn the football over. He's going to fumble the football. And he's going to take unnecessary sacks. He's been sacked 20 times on the season already. So that just gives you an idea and an overview on why this team has decided after the bye week, which they're currently on their bye week right now, that they're going to come out of the bye with a different quarterback. They're making a switch to Ryan Mallett. He's on the last year of his deal. They want to find out what they have in this kid. Do we need to re-sign him or do we need to allow him to walk away? Remember, they drafted Tom Savage in the 4th round, did these Texans. So you're not really sure what they're doing at quarterback right now. I think it's a big question mark at the quarterback position. And I feel bad. I said it before the season started. I feel bad for this football team because really you have all of the parts that you need to not only compete in this division, but compete in the AFC. Why can't you make it to the postseason? Why can't you get to the divisional round? Because your quarterback position isn't settled. That's why. And so I felt like this was going to happen, but it always stings when it actually does. And so it's a shame because this team right now, defensively, they're good enough. They got the best player in football in J.J. Watt. Arian Foster has been money this season. And to see everything that you've done not be enough, it's frustrating. So you look at this body of work by the Texans: 2-2 at home, 2-3 on the road, 1-1 in the division, 3-2 in the conference, and that's not bad at all. It really isn't. I mean, you got to take care of home a little bit better, and you'd love to see your divisional mark be improved. You only played 2 games in the division, though, and so with your division being as bad as it is, I expect you to sweep the floor with Jacksonville and Tennessee. You're probably going to lose to Indy one more time. Go 4-2 in the division, and it's time for you to find out what you have on this team, especially at the quarterback position, which is your most pressing issue right now, and I think you're going to find that out in these final 7 games. Let's talk about them quickly. You got a bye week in Week 10. You come off the bye. You're at Cleveland. You're home for Cincinnati. You're home for Tennessee. Then you're at Jacksonville and at Indy. Then you're home for Baltimore, home for Jacksonville to wrap up the season. So we're going to find out just how good Ryan Mallett is. I've got my questions. I've got my preconceived notions of who Ryan Mallett is as a quarterback, but we'll all find out together in these 7 games if he has done enough to solidify a spot. Not necessarily a starting spot, but just a spot back on this Houston Texans roster next season. And that's going to do it for the Houston Texans. We move on to the 3rd place team in this dreadful division, the Tennessee Titans. More questions than answers. That's the problem in Tennessee right now. I think the Tennessee Titans have more questions than they had coming into the season than they do answers. And that's never a good thing. When you leave the season asking more questions than you asked coming into the season, a lot of things have went wrong throughout the course of the season to get you to that point. And these are just a few of the questions. These aren't all of them. These are just a few of the questions that I have. I can't speak for Tennessee Titans fans, can't speak for management, can't speak for anybody else. But these are the questions that I have looking at this Tennessee Titans team from the outside looking in. Who's the guy at the quarterback position? We know it's not Jake Long, we know it's not Jake Locker, and it's frustrating because you don't even know if this guy can play at an elite level as a starting quarterback in this league. You still don't know, and that was a question coming into the season. You still don't have an answer. We do know this about Jake Locker. He can't stay healthy. We do know that for a fact. But who's the guy at the quarterback position? Is it Zach Menberg? Is it Jake Locker? We know it's not Jake Locker. Is it Zach Menberg? We don't know. And this guy wasn't a 1st-round pick, wasn't a 2nd-round pick, so there's no ties to Zach Menberg. Do you have to draft a quarterback this year? Who knows? We don't know. Will this defense work? I mean, I told you there's a mandatory year of struggle when you make a philosophy switch like the Titans did from a 4-3 to a 3-4. Hasn't been the most impressive results. I don't see any guys really stepping up. Jarrell Casey is still your best defensive player, which is a shame because you need help. He needs help. He's not really getting a lot of it. And so, is this defense going to work for the Tennessee Titans? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. Who is the go-to wide receiver? I still struggle with this group. I don't see anybody that I say, man, I need to watch out for this guy. Justin Hunter is a guy I keep trying to promote and keep trying to thrust him into that role, but he drops the football. He's inconsistent. He's quiet. There's games where crickets. I don't even know if this guy's playing this week or not because he does nothing. And Kendall Wright, it was funny. I was watching the game a couple of weeks ago, and he caught like a 49-yard pass, and they said, that's his biggest gain of his career. And I'm saying to myself, are you kidding me? But no, it shouldn't surprise me. Everything's a bubble screen, a hitch, or a slant with this guy. And so you don't have anybody that's a dominant receiver. You need one of those. That would help. Delanie Walker has been a revelation, but he's not a wide receiver. You need one of those guys. Then you look, is Bishop Sankey anything other than ordinary? I mean, I look at him and he didn't move me. He didn't wow me at all. I look at Bishop Sankey and I say, you're regular. You're really regular. Is he anything other than ordinary? I don't know. You look at another, did you waste your money at right tackle? I thought you did when you went out and got Michael. Or, hey, look, it's done. You better make it work because you did 4 years, $20 million. I don't know if he was ever worth that, but your offensive line has been garbage this year. Fix it. I don't know what you got to do. Fix it. You look at, is your president and CEO, Tommy Smith, is he sniffing and hitting that hard stuff or what? Like, I'm going to tell him, like a wise man told me in one of my favorite movies, son, if you want to continue working here, lay off the drugs. This guy's talking about Super Bowl in 2 years and playoffs next year. Playoffs? Playoffs? Let's just hope you can win another damn game. What are you talking about, playoffs? Who's your quarterback? And you want to make the Super Bowl in 2 years? Miss me with that. So, basically what I'm saying is, Titans are 1-3 at home, 1-3 on the road, 1-2 in the division, 2-4 in the conference. They're dreadful. At Baltimore, home for Pittsburgh, at Philly, at Houston, home for the Giants, home for the Jets, at Jacksonville, home for Indy. There's a lot of issues here that they've got to iron out before the end of the season. A lot of questions that they need to answer in these final 8 games to figure out what they have moving forward. They don't know the answers. I don't know the answers. You don't know the answers. These last 8 games will help us with some of those answers. Not all of them, but it'll give us an idea as to where the Titans need to go moving forward in the offseason. You go on to the final team in this division. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm torn by the first half of the season that the Jacksonville Jaguars have turned in. Here's why. They deviated away from the plan. And the plan of action coming into the season was simply this. We're not playing Blake Bortles under any circumstances unless injury hits us at that quarterback position. We're not playing Blake Bortles. We're going to allow him to sit down and learn in his inaugural season in this league. Sounds great to me. You know, I'm torn. And here's why I'm torn. That sounded great in theory. Nobody does that anymore, first of all. Second of all, the experience that you gain playing in this league is invaluable. You have to play and make the mistakes so that you know not to do it again. And the only way that you learn and get the speed of the game, I know it's a difference, and you learn coverages and you see what teams are trying to do to you. All of these things are learned by playing and making those mistakes and learning from them. But at the same time, you don't want to damage the psyche of a quarterback. It's so fragile, these psyches of quarterbacks are. You don't want to damage it by throwing a guy out there too soon. Offensive line isn't ready to protect him. Making a lot of mistakes mentally. Then you start to see ghosts. You start to make bad decisions, bad throws, and things are compounded. That's why I'm torn by this first half of the season for Jacksonville, because there was no reason to deviate away from the plan. I know we knew what Chad Henne was going to be before the season started. We know the book of Chad Henne. We've read it several times. We know how that book ends. Every time you read it, the ending is the same. But you knew that when you made him a starter and made the comment that we don't want to play Blake Bortles this year. So for you to go back and say, all right, you know what? Maybe this young kid will give us a spark. And you play him, and he's been disastrous. 13 interceptions on the season already, 8 touchdowns. You see some good things. You also see some things you don't like. I'm a little torn there, but hey, I can say this much. He's gained invaluable experience. Let's hope he's learned from it. Because you can get out there and get all the experience you want, but if you don't learn from your mistakes, it's pointless. So now you look at this Jacksonville Jaguars team, and I say, just keep building. Keep building blocks. I like what you're doing defensively. Paul Plus-Lusley, you know he's a keeper. Jonathan Cyprien, you know he's a keeper. Telvin Smith has shown some ability to make some plays. That's why you drafted him. Sindaric Marks, great offseason acquisition, leading your team in sacks. Ryan Davis has been a quiet surprise. out of Bethune-Cookman, getting pressure on the quarterback. In limited snaps, he's got 4.5 sacks. So he's leading the team in sacks along with Sindaric Marks. I think Marks might have 4 sacks. Either way, they're getting pressure on the quarterback, okay? JT Thomas, another guy, making some plays, a couple of interceptions for him. Maybe he's a guy that you can lean on moving forward. So like some of the things you're doing defensively, offensively, Denard Robinson has stepped up. Hey, I don't know about this whole I can be one of the best backs in the league thing. Hey, pump your brakes. Slow down there, young fella. I like what you're doing, though. But I don't know about that whole best running back in the league thing. Just slow down and be fortunate that you're having a good season right now. Blake B, of course, you're hitching the wagon to him. Okay, Allen Robinson has come in and said, hey, man, if you need a number 1 guy, I don't know if I'm that dude, but I'll try. Hey, I can respect that. Allen Hurns making big plays. You'd like to see him be a little bit more consistent, but hey, you're building stuff. Marquise Lee hasn't even scratched the surface yet, so you've got some stuff on the offensive side. You need to figure out what you got going on the offensive line. Get the 5 best players, put them in position, and protect Blake Bortles and give him time. I like what you're doing. I think there's some hope in Jacksonville. You don't need to deviate away from the plan, though. You keep your head coach and all your coordinators intact and see if you can't get this thing turned around in your final 7 games of the season. And I think there's hope in Jacksonville. You know what I want to see down the stretch? 2 things. I want to see Blake Bortles play better. I want to see him be more consistent, eliminate some of the dumb mistakes, hit some of the throws that are open when they're there to be hit. And I want to see this team convert some of these close games into wins. I want to see this team learn how to win down the stretch. Hell, if it's only 2 games that you win, that's better than the first half of the season where you only won 1. Win games down the stretch. That's what I want to see from the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's going to do it for the AFC South division. As we continue to mosey on, we'll continue to break down the final division in the National Football League here on this series, the NFC South, here on the NFL Midseason Outlook. See you next time.